I'm Teresa. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining on the video. Uh-oh, let me see what we got here. Oh, one of my uploads already came in. Interesting. Okay. All righty then. Awesome. Let me see. We got anybody in here yet? Not just yet. Let's get myself situated. Okay. All right, family. So I'm gonna do what I normally do. I'm gonna pull a card or two in here, and we'll read those until some folks start coming in. See where we go from there. Hey Antoine, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. Happy Sunday to you. Oh. Ooh, gratitude, appreciation, and thanks came out with love thy neighbor. Being of service. Wow. Yeah. Oh, you did? Awesome. Awesome. I was a few minutes later getting on here than I had initially intended to be, only because I actually did upload. Well, you probably saw the notification where I uploaded some the latest installation in the Emerald tablets to the channel. And actually, that other video that I uploaded along with is basically was just me getting my thoughts together for what we're going to talk about here, because I took notes on things that people wanted to talk about yesterday. So, yeah. Let's see. See where we're going. Ooh, that's interesting. Out of both of these decks, something about gratitude and appreciation came out. Gratitude came out of the Christ consciousness deck. Yeah, I love purple. And blessings and thanks, abundant universe came out of the Metatron deck. Thank you, Mindy. I appreciate it. Along with love thy neighbor, being of service, and Mother Earth, grounding and support. So we may or may not even get around to reading the book meanings on those. I just wanted to pull them just in case we had a little bit of a lag here. I wanted to give an opportunity for some folks to get in here, but I do see that we've got about 7 that are in the, well, I'm one of them on my other account. So we got 6 folks in here now. But yeah, I did want to get in here and get started and actually address some of the stuff. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a caftan. Honestly, I don't know what happened to me a couple years ago now, but all of a sudden I got a wild hair, as they say, and found myself starting to just really. I've always loved like salwar kameez and stuff like that, but I was more along the line of the Punjabi suits or the salwar kameez, and then all of a sudden it just became caftans and caftans and caftans. So yeah. Hey Donovan, good to see you. Good to see you. Glad you're coming on in. We gonna get rolling up in here in just a moment, because yesterday I jotted down a few things that different ones brought up in the conversation that we were having that we didn't get a chance to really get into. So I took a few moments and looked a few things up, and we can talk about them. Because, for example, somebody mentioned casting pearls before swine, and honestly, I'm gonna read the scripture, of course. And I mean, I knew what it said, kind of, but always, again, so many people come in here and accuse of taking things out of context, and we don't know what we're talking about and all that. So, for anybody listening that may not be familiar with the scripture, um, or where that phrase "not casting your pearls before swine" came from, It's from Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. The forehead jewel, honestly, because I'm not a practicing Hindu, I don't practice any religion. I kind of glean what I can from all of them, but I am very much attuned to Yeshua and to Lord Enki. And Lord Enki is Shiva in the Hindu pantheon, and the Bindi is about protecting and strengthening the third eye. So that's why I wear it. And I have discussed it with other Indian people, and they've assured me that it is not appropriation and they do not find it offensive. I do not wear the red dot because that is very specific to Hinduism. So I don't want to disrespect the Hindu religion by wearing the red dot or the yellow stripe as that far as that goes concerned. But I do like the idea of adorning, protecting, enhancing, what have you, my third eye. So yeah, it's just a thing for me, you know. To me, I'd rather do that. Well, sometimes I got a piercing over here and I do that, but I don't have like a whole lot of tattoos and piercings and things. So it's just something that I enjoy. But yeah, well, let's go over here to Matthew 7 6. We'll get started on that one. Oh, how did I get, Lord, I'm in Zechariah. I was like, that ain't what it says, but it's because I'm in the wrong book. Uh, and I'm gonna read the whole chapter, cause well, not the whole chapter, but 1 through 6. Christianity stealing from everybody, Antoine. Honestly, I wish they had taken some of the better parts of Hinduism, but unfortunately, they've culled just enough stuff from all of the religions to be appropriating all of them and kind of disrespectful of all of them, to be honest, the way Christianity actually plays out. But again, look at who the central figure in Christianity is: Jehovah, Yahweh. He a disrespectful cat that been thieving and doing what it is what it is. So yeah. But Matthew 7, judge not that ye be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Right from the Sermon on the Mount. But all of the folks that come into my live stream, and again, YouTube is free. Anybody up here can make an account and basically promote anything. I've seen stuff on live streams as I was scrolling that made me go, WTF. You know what I mean? But they're so arrogant in their piety that they think it's a cool thing to come in here and try to tell me how wrong I am and what I need to do and redirect me and what I need to pray for and all of that. And somebody made this mention to that scripture. Hey, Whiskey Man, welcome. Come on in. Come on in. You ain't got to knock. Just wipe your feet and take a seat. Take your shoes off, whatever you want to do. We here. We here. But yeah, they were talking about, why do I even bother? Because it ain't for them. I really don't care nothing about the trolls. And honestly, even when I respond to them a little sharply, I'm not even mad, because I know they're acting out of ignorance. They genuinely think that being rude and nasty to people that don't believe like they believe is the way to go. That's what Christianity teaches. That's what Buddhism, not Buddhism, that's what Christianity, Islam, and Judaism teach. You going to do it my way, or I have a right to be nasty to you or unalive you. Hey, Trevor, good to have you back, brother. And thank you, Whiskey Man. Appreciate you. I'm having a wonderful day. Yep, sure am. But yeah, so honestly, when people do that, again, if they had any idea, hey Ulysses, good to have you back as well. And Selena Gurr, good to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's gonna always be haters because truthfully, those people have so little life or so little respect for their own time or anybody else's time, and such an unexpanded consciousness that they actually think it's cool to show up someplace and be as rude and disrespectful to other people as they know how to be. That's some of that main character syndrome. And truthfully, main character syndrome ain't nothing but it's a compensation for a lack of worthiness or a lack of self-confidence. Hey, unique goddess, welcome, my love. Welcome, welcome. And Clarence, how you doing? Welcome in. Come on in. Come on in. Yep, we were just getting started. We started out with the comment that someone made yesterday talking about casting pearls before swine. They wanted a little bit more clarity on that. And I expanded a little bit because it is from the Sermon on the Mount. But before he got to the statement about casting pearls before swine, Yeshua was letting us know, like I said, about this people that come in and want to judge not lest you be judged. Hey, 100-year-old man, or should I call you grandpa? Wow, love it. He said, hey, youngin, you like the outfit? Appreciate you, brother. I do. Or sister. Well, no, you said you're a 100-year-old man, so I am going to call you brother. Indeed, indeed. Now, the next place that I wanted to go, I'm going to take these a little bit out of order from the way I jotted them down initially, because we wanted to talk about this hanging on the tree thing. And they wanted to know where I got that from. That came from Deuteronomy chapter 21, verses 22 through 23. And it says here, if a man has committed a crime punishable by death and he is put to death and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night on the tree, but you shall bury him the same day, for a hanged man is cursed by God. You shall not defile your land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance. So if you don't get him off the tree that same day, not only is he cursed, you're cursed. No. That's why I said. That's why I said, brother. I made a mistake by calling you a sister. I am gonna call you brother because I look. I understand. I've only ever ran into one person as long in the tooth as I am that was promoting that trans and all of that confusion stuff, and they got some other confusions as well. So there's a blip in the matrix. That's kind of the paradigm part of the timeline shift we experienced in somewhere between 2019, 2020. Hey, Joyce, good to see you. Hey, Kathleen, you said, are tarot readings real? Yeah, I mean, different readers, a tarot reading is only as real as the person doing the reading. That's why I would tell anybody, if you're going to get a reader, be very a reading, be very comfortable with that that you feel. I mean, obviously none of us can know 100% anybody, but pay attention to that reader enough that you're comfortable with their energy, that their spirit vibes with your spirit, that the overall tone of their general messages is something that resonates with you before you have them do a personal reading. But yeah, tarot readings are real. I read tarot. And quite honestly, I mean, not tooting my own horn, but I used to be very unsure whether I was ready to read for other people or not. So I was reading for friends and family and friends of friends and stuff like that. Every reading I've ever done, people come back telling me, "Oh my goodness, it resonated so much." Fact of the matter, my very worst critic is my youngest daughter. She couldn't stand me, don't care nothing about my spirituality. We have a very rocky relationship, but her little butt got in spiritual trouble, and she had me do a series of readings for her. And when I read for her, she came back. She was like, "Mom, you might want to dial that back again because it's so it's so accurate. It's scary." Because she and I had not talked in almost 4 years, so I didn't know nothing about her personal life at the time. I just saw what the card showed me. You're in distress, Rohit. What's wrong there? If your distress requires you think you're gonna come in here and get a free reading today, I can give you some minimal advice and pull a couple of cards, but I'm really not here for readings. And if you need an intensive personal reading, email me at modernmysticmessages@gmail.com, and we can look as deep into your situation as we need to off camera. But let me know what your distress is about, and I'll see if there's something I can help give you some temporary relief for. But here in this forum, if it's genuinely a dire situation, this is not the platform for it. You said it proves that people aren't as different as they want to believe. Yeah. And the thing is, what people don't understand, there comes a point in time, and again, you have to look at the emerald tablets and some of those other things when they talk to us about expanding our consciousness, cleansing our system, and all of that. When your spiritual gifts start to open, it's not whether or not tarot cards are real, it's about whether intuition is real and a person has allowed themselves to tap into it. It's about whether or not uh, clairaudience, if a person is tuned into their clairaudience, if a person is really paying attention to that, because I can sit down, and again, it takes some time. For example, I've told the story on my channel many in the past. I had people in my life that I needed to get away from me. It was somebody that I had dated years ago. I wasn't remotely thinking about them in a romantic sense. We had fallen into that weird let's remain friends zone thing. Hey, Joshua, good to see you. And every time I picked up the Romance Angels deck and start handling it, even if I was reading for somebody else, Release Your Ex would come flying out that deck. That's my intuition and my guides working along with me, but it's no different than angels sending you angel numbers or your ancestors sending you feathers or pennies or things like that through the dimensions. Something like tarot cards is extremely easy for them to manipulate. Ones and zeros on a computer screen, extremely easy for spirit to manipulate. Hey, Nicolisa, how you doing? Glad to have you back. Yeah, that Kathleen, it's really real. Like I said, just be careful of the energy of the reader you choose to use and connect with. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I know that's right, baby. I know that's right, Nicolisa. I wasn't living with these people, but I didn't understand when I was working with the notion of unconditional love and forgiveness. I understand, honey. We were at it for a long time. Hey, AJ, good to see you. Good to see you. But I was working with the notion of unconditional love and forgiveness, and I had forgiven a couple other people. And he called me one day out of the blue. We hadn't talked for a long time, and he was in spiritual need. He's legally blind because he's a Stevens Johnson's patient, but he had actually gone totally blind for a few days. And in his distress, he reached out to me. And I allowed him back into my life in this weird friend zone. And I mean, it was all phone conversation, but he was back in my energy. But what I didn't know is the first time when he dumped me, thank God he did. I ain't mad when I say that, but I'm just letting you know, he walked away from me and did it in a very cold and disrespectful way. And then like a decade later, wanted to come back in my life. I didn't care. I was glad that we wasn't together. So I didn't think about it. I just let him back in my life in the friend zone, but I didn't know he was literally feeding off of my energy. He's a draconic energy vampire. He's a warlock, and I didn't understand that. He was messing with tarot cards long before I was, but I didn't know that. He hid a lot of stuff from me. He's not a good tarot reader. His energy was all jacked up, but on a personal level, he was messing with him. And then I even I didn't know when I started reading tarot. I bought him a couple decks. I read for him and all of that. And then one night I was reading on a video call, and he sees auras, and he commented on how much larger my aura has gotten since the last time we physically saw each other. And when I did that reading, he was kind of freaked out because he said I saw things in that reading that he had not discussed with nobody but God. How you know who I'm talking about? Do I personally know you, Nicolisa? Oh Lord. Mm-mm-mm. You said to the left, to the ain't that the truth? Yes. And when I got that message, it wasn't just the release your ex around the same time. I was deep. I would go out in barefoot meditation like every day, or at least every Sunday. I would meditate every day, but I get out in the yard and do my thing and all that. And this one particular Sunday, oh okay, but you kind of sort of you got a little insight. Spirit showed you some stuff. Yeah, like I said, I didn't want to believe he was a vampire either, but Spirit let me know. They let me know. And at the end of the day, come to find out, he's just spiritual enough that he had seen what spirit has in store for me, and he wanted to ride the coattails of that, and wanted to keep me away from union with my divine counterpart. People look at the fact that it's taken me this long and I still ain't in union with my twin, and come to find out, I would have never gotten union with my twin fooling with him. I had to let him go and heal and get rid of all of those people from around me and do the healing and ascension work so that I can get to the money piece, so that I can get to the other part, and then I can travel. And it's like a and then. But the first thing I had to do was get these vampires off my neck. Yeah, they do. And I firmly believe in this instance that he was a high level soulmate, and he followed me from a past life. It ain't the first time we done had this rodeo. Hey, Abdul. Absolutely. And that's the thing that I try to let people be aware of. When you've got, and a reason I'm so transparent about speaking about my exes, because I know that there are a lot of folks here in this soul tribe. Because remember, before I started this channel, I sat down with intention and asked spirit to attract soul family. So a lot of the people that I'm attracting to this channel, or the channel is attracting them, we walk in the same path. We're mirroring the same steps. We done been through the same hell. And yeah, the soul family, we sitting here watching now, and some of our vampires are watching too. And I've given them warnings. They would be best to stop now, because we don't wish nothing bad on them. But our ancestors ain't playing. They really ain't playing. And that's what happened to me after I kept seeing release your ex, release your ex. I did what they said and I cut off the friendship, but I was sitting there feeling bad about it because I'm a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser. And I was feeling so bad because I was so cold, and I was this and I was that. I shouldn't have been so harsh about it, and blah, blah, blah. Because he did the narcissist thing on the way out the door and tried to let me know it was okay. And when I got over myself, that he would forgive me, no malice and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that morning in meditation, I was up in the heavens with the divine mother and having a good time. And I'm talking to the archangels and all that. And then all of a sudden, the ancestors crashed the meditation. And I literally, it sounded like old black grandmama. That's why I say I know it was the ancestors. I wasn't with the angels no more. And they was like, don't you dare. You better not contact him no more. Don't give him nothing. You don't know who he is. I'm telling you, his hands are not clean. And they told me, there was a reader, the first reader that I was ever led to. I was hesitant to have a personal reading, and I just never worried about it. Money was tight, this and that. I had just let it go. And that's when they told me, now it's time for you to sit with the Baron. And I did. I made an appointment for a personal reading with the Baron, and he confirmed everything. It was a very short reading. He never did even air it, but he confirmed basically who my Orishas were that were kind of watching over me right now, as well as the fact that I was very right to get that fool out of my life. You said he took the body you were born with. Ooh, yeah. Honestly, Nicolisa, I feel for you because I've been around energy vampires pretty much my whole life. My mother was a raging narcissist. My father was her supply, and I was smack dab in the middle of them. Unfortunately, they didn't take the mark I was born with. I was given a couple of marks at birth, and one of them is right on my solar plexus, like literally right here. She said it looked like a strawberry. To me, it looked almost like it's the shape of like the African continent, kind of, sort of, but right on my solar plexus. And then the other one is like a little extraterrestrial spot. I got one. It's not true vitiligo. It's like a little tiny white dot on my hip that I've had my whole life. But anyway, he said, I'm just making sure. Oh, you talking about Bessie Smith? Yeah, Lord. Oh, I went through my Billie Holiday phase. I really wasn't a Bessie Smith girl, but yeah. Anyway, we ain't gonna get, like I said, we ain't gonna get on to on all of that. Oh yeah, look, D blessed. Most of us in this live right now are scapegoats, black sheep, uh what else they want to call us? Problem children, failure to thrive. What else other hateful thing can we think to say? All of that. The chosen are, because we were put in a position where we're told we're not enough in the world, and we were made to feel small, and they wanted us to dumb us down, and they wanted to keep us quiet because we don't see like they see. We saw a whole lot of shit they didn't want us to see, and they tried to convince us that our seeing was wrong. And after a while, we just shut up and let them have their way because it was easier than getting the hell knocked out of us all the time. And guess what? You bump through life trying to be regular. You ain't never been regular. You ain't never gonna be regular. You get that up, that ship sailed before you even got here, boo. You're chosen. And again, not saying that from some haughty tardy. People say, oh, the chosen ones, da 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 da. Exactly. Oh, honey, I guarantee you, you done carried a whole bunch of people on your back. If I hadn't toted so many people on my back, I wouldn't be struggling in poverty now. Most of us are overgivers. Most of us are imbalanced empaths that allow vampires to suck not only our energy, quite a lot of our money down the drain too. Yeah, ruin yourself trying to fit in and be regular. And it ain't truly trying to buy their affection and their love. Your genuine love for them led you to want to try to help. And you figured, I'll get to mine later. They need this. Let me help them. And later on they can help me, or I'll help myself. I'll be okay. I can do it. And after they done sucked you down, like you said, you look like they done sucked you down till you look like a raisin, and you ain't even got enough juice left to deal with your own, and then everybody walk off and leave you. Yeah. And I see it so much. Again, before I decided to come forward and start serving the collective, the soul family, I hung around in the back. I was led to several tarot collectives. I let intuition and my guides lead me. I've come in and out of many collectives over the past, let me see, I started this in 2019, 20-ish or so. So yeah, over the past 5 or 6 years, I've been in and out of many different tarot collectors, and I can't tell you how many readers, even if I'm not still in their collectives, because genuinely, spirit, I'm there for a while, I get the messages I need, and then I can't constantly watch all of them. But when I listen to them start to tell their stories, I'm like, dang, that sounds just like me. Oh my God, I went through that too. And I'm finding that a lot of us that are chosen for divine service have walked this path. It's lonely, it's rocky, it's painful. But like they say, trouble don't last always. It's for a reason. Because here's the thing, you don't know, but I already know a lot of the folks that I serve in this collective, like I said, are fellow anointed ones. Many of us are in the bloodline of Yeshua and may or may not know it. But we're being called by Yeshua, even though we may or may not know it yet. Some of them still bucking and kicking and screaming. I didn't just wake up overnight. My awakening been a 15-year process. So we're being called into service, and I'm being called. Oh, okay, Melanie. Good to know. Good to know. But yeah, I'm being called into service. But I understood when I started reading tarot for this channel, And I felt kind of bad for a minute. I'm like, my tarot readings don't bite as hard as some of these other folks with all of the karmic this. I mean, I see some karmic stuff occasionally, but most of my tarot readings are very clearly for somebody that's on a pathway of ascension, because I'm reading for shamans and mystics and teachers that are on a pathway to ascension. I'm not reading for the regular folks that's still trying to figure out when their boyfriend coming back and why is it. We have some of that to deal with too, and I do the relationship readings too, but I'm saying we're not at this point in the journey. We're a little further along than that. Those people need their readers too, and God bless the brothers and sisters that can read all of that trauma and drama, because I ain't got the patience for it. But yeah, I am reading for the chosen, so I know we in here. Yeah. Oh yeah, D blessed. I'm glad you went back. I am so glad that you went back and checked it out, and I'm glad that I was led to actually start going live. I was kind of intimidated about that first. I should have been did it, I suppose, but on my birthday, it was like, nope, today is the day. We're gonna do this. Yep. And honestly, there's plenty of people claiming the Elohim as their father, but here's the point. Which Elohim? That part. It's a whole lot of folks that's showing their hand. And truthfully, I guess either way it's gonna be fine, because Yahweh's people is lining up. I get that part, but Enki's people are starting to fall out of the woodwork too. Don't feel bad, Unique. Don't feel bad, because you will. When you're ready, you will. I done had this channel up for 2 years, and honestly, Paul is your ancestor? Oh Lord. I'm sorry. Well, don't be offended when I said he was the Antichrist. I still think he is, but I try to be nice while you on the live stream. Oh my goodness. He might be. You never know. But yeah. Anyway, let's get back over here to what I did. Actually, I wanted to quote Paul when we're talking about Paul. When we're talking about this hanging from the tree thing, he actually spoke on it in Galatians 3, verse 13. He said, Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who is hanged on a tree. Now, it bothers me that he said, I ain't gonna say it bothers me, because I understand what Paul was doing. Paul came in as the deceiver to help this church knit this lie. They used Yeshua as a mascot. They painted him in the middle of it, but they keep sitting here. They acknowledge the fact that he became a curse for us. No, he didn't. He didn't choose that. The Romans chose to unalive him. And they did it in the most disrespectful way they could by hanging him from a tree. They enacted a curse upon him. And the church have people all around the world reenacting that curse every single year by doing the Easter celebration. They reenact him carrying his own cross up to Calvary, and then they turn around and do the Last Supper with the cannibalism ritual, eating the flesh, drinking the blood, and then they celebrate the Resurrection Monday. But that's high magic. That's black magic, people. You're reenacting a curse and perpetuating it every year for 2,000 years. Exactly. You cursed him, you cursed his lineage, and guess what? You also curse yourself and your lineage by participating in their black magic rituals. And that's the part that most of these Bible thumpers don't understand. Every time they celebrate the Easter thing, and not only that, one of the things that I saw that I wanted to call the people's attention, Yeshua, at the time of the Last Supper, that was a Passover meal he was sitting down to. So Christians decided, when Paul and them made up the rules for the New Testament, when they decided to roll out Yahwehism and to make it be Jehovah. You said what? Well, first off, there's a lot of folks that understand that Yeshua didn't actually die. And he was a high yogi who could actually mask his vital signs and all of that. And if you read the account of them coming into the tomb, the herbs they brought into the tomb were not embalming herbs, they were healing herbs. Yeshua did not die at Calvary. That is the lie that Christianity tells us, that he needed to die to buy back our sins. But Yahweh believes in sacrificing children. When he was in the Greek pantheon as Zeus, he ate one of his own children. When he was Yahweh to the Jews, he told Abraham to take his child that he had waited 100 years to have up on the mountain and to sacrifice him to Yahweh. Yahweh is a monster who believes in blood sacrifice, even of humans. And they perpetuated that blood. No, if you read it, Vanish, it was the Passover. During the Passover meal, that went to go find a place to do the Passover meal. And during that meal, they claimed that they were instituting a new covenant, and he started the end on the Last Supper. But the thing about that, Vanish, it is very confusing, Melissa. It is. But if you look at the accounts in the scriptures that give you details of the Last Supper, supposedly, it's Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They give detailed accounts. And if you read all three of those accounts, they are damn near verbatim. That lets you know that that's not a real accounting of what happened. There's no way that three separate men wrote about that one event the same exact way, verbatim, 100 years after it happened. Those books were not written till 100 years. Well, some of them, I think 60 or 70 years, but the latest one of them was written, I think they range from about 70 years to 110 years after the so-called execution of Yeshua. Why did they wait so long to write it down? And after 100 years, all three of them in separate places in the world, remembered the account exactly word for word, but yet later on, you come to find out, if you do some more historical digging, Matthew, Mark, and Luke never actually met Yeshua. The one of the apostles who actually met Yeshua, or could have even potentially met Yeshua, would have been his cousin John. And John does tell about Yeshua's end of life, but he does not describe the Last Supper that way, and he does not describe the eating of the flesh, the drinking of the blood, and all that. That's some shit that they knitted in there to suck us into this blood ritual. Say what? A lot of the books are fake, because here you go, after John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, we come up on Acts of the Apostles. And let's go see what it say there, because it starts out with a lie. First sentence right out the gate is a lie. Hold on, let me see. But then they talk about God can't lie and all of it. Well, Yeshua told them he the father of a lie. But anyway, let's go right here. We're going to look at it. Like I said, we got time today. No, it ain't Acts. I think it was Romans that started out with a lie. Because he starts out here, well, even still in the first book, O Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Jesus began to do and teach until the day when he was taken up, after he had given commands through the Holy Spirit to the apostles whom he had chosen. He presented himself alive to them after his suffering by many proofs, appearing to them during 40 days and speaking about the kingdom of God. And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit. So not many days from now. Now, wait a minute. So it's not in Acts. Let me look and see what Romans says, because I was noticing this. Maybe it wasn't. I'm curious. Yeah, here we go. Romans. And again, the Romans literally in this book, according to this book, the Romans just put him to death. They just executed Yeshua according to this book, not too many years before. Now, in actuality, this book is written over 100 years after they put him to death, but still. in 1, it says this greeting: Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ. First lie right there. Paul never met Yeshua, but he gonna lie and say he did. Called to be an apostle. Another lie. Set apart for the gospel of God, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures concerning his son, who was descended from David according to the flesh, and was declared to be the Son of God, and according to the Spirit of holiness by his resurrection from the dead, Jesus Christ our Lord, through whom we have received grace and apostleship to bring about the obedience of faith for the sake of his name among all the nations, including you who are called to belong to Jesus Christ. Yada, yada, yada. But you started out very first sentence with a lie. That's the part to get me. Hi, Aniko. Hey, Richie Rich. I'm so sorry. Why you fed up, boo? Did I miss something here? They can say they was look, they were filled with a spirit, all right. I'm not saying they weren't, but which spirit of what? Everything in the New Testament is pointing people to Yahweh, who is the same monster that the Jews were serving as under the name. Well, they were pointing. Christianity decided to call Yahweh Jehovah, but he's still Yahweh. He's still the same monster that he was when he was Dionysus. He's still the same monster that he was when he was Yah. He's still the same monster that he was when he was Beelzebub. He's still the same monster that he was when he was Yaldabaoth. And Jesus said in John 8 that he is a liar and the father of a lie. And in case we got some folks that wasn't here on the live stream yesterday, let's go over that scripture one more time so people can know I'm not lying when I say that. They kept saying I'm taking it out of context and all of that. There ain't no context involved. It only requires reading. John 8, and we're going to start in 39. They answered to him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to them, or I'm going to say Yeshua. I'm going to stop that. They said to him, Abraham is our father. Yeshua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from the Elohim. This is not what Abraham did. You are doing the works your father did. You are doing the works your father did. Your father. They said to him, we were not born of sexual immorality. We have one father, even Elohim. Yahweh is that their Elohim. Yeshua said to them, if Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I came from Elohim and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. That's the part people don't understand. Yeah. And there are some good things. I mean, I can get some. Oh, yeah. No. Stephen, all Abrahamic religions, because all of them worship Yahweh. It's not that I'm taking criticism to the Bible, I'm taking criticism to the Elohim that they are worshiping in the Bible. I don't mind saying it with my whole chest. I served Yahweh in ignorance when I didn't know any better. I literally had Christianity beaten into me. And I tried my best to believe it. But once I actually got to know the God that I was serving, I had to renounce my dedication and baptism and step away from it. Yaldabaoth is a dragon. I understand, Melissa, but you really, really have to. There's no way around it. Some of us do have a lot of very, very traumatic things that happen to us along the way. And guess what? That's part of your indoctrination into the world of Yahweh. Yeah, Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, Satan, the devil, all the same. You're absolutely right, Richie Rich. Absolutely right. He been known by a lot of names, and he was a monster under every single one of them. But that's why we live in the world we live in, because the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. It says that in the scriptures. It tells us that he's a dragon and a devil, but the church put a spin on it and told us we don't have sense enough to read this stuff for ourselves, that we need to interpret. I don't pray to particularly anybody. I talk to Yeshua and to Lord Enki, but Lord Enki does not want our worship on the same line that Yahweh does. He never wanted worship like that. He wants cooperation and respect, but he told us to turn our worship gene off. We're not supposed to worship. They're gonna look at you like that, honey. But exactly, Inky guys, me too, baby. Exactly. I have so much love and respect for him. But once you turn your worship gene off, you can't just. I mean, for a while, it will kind of sort of look like you're just shifting camp, and you may feel a need to that kind of ritual and pomp and circumstance. That's why I tell people, if you have a need for ceremony and ritual, look into something like Buddhism or Taoism or something like that. There are a lot of really beautiful ceremonies. You can do your chanting and and that will actually help calm your mind, but it's not out and out worship, and it's not a religion. It's a philosophy and a way of being that will actually help you in your ascension path. Yes, I believe in the universe, and I believe in the creator of all, the one, the unbegotten. I believe that there are aeons out there. There's levels to this, like Meek Mill say. So I would be real ignorant if I really thought that the earth was the only thing here. There's no other life nowhere. There's no other planets nowhere. There's no other beings anywhere. Look, we got so many overlapping dimensions here. There are more non corporeal, unseen beings here than there are physical beings. I have no idea. I have no idea, Antoine. You probably been, actually, music is like the language of the universe. Ultimately, we are kind of sort of musicians. We really are. If you speak with a voice out of your mouth, you're a musician. Most of our voices can be scaled down to a tone at some point. You might not be a musician of a man made instrument, but you have the instrument of your body. Yeah. Now, the other thing, like I said, we talked about the hanging on the tree being the curse. I'm not sure how I feel about Melchizedek. Like I say, he was a high priest of El Elyon, but I honestly think he jumped ship, because now the order of Melchizedek actually stands for beings of light, to include the likes of Yeshua and Archangel Michael and all the rest of those. So I really don't think Melchizedek is Team Yahweh. I'd have to do a little more research on that. Oh, but my favorite thing, you said what now? Well, that's one of Hakeem. That's one of the reasons why we're encouraged to meditate, and especially during this time. But who says music is the weapon of the devil? Who says that? Religion. Music is this. Well, again, you got to remember, most of the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they're all basically the same religion, because they all worship a form of Yahweh. So they're going to turn you, they use a lot of things that they'll tell you, the parishioners, hey, cool guy, they'll tell you, the parishioner, that something is bad, all the while they're using it. Like when we talked about the whole idea of witchcraft in the Bible, Saul went to go see the witch of Endor to find out. He wanted a message from Samuel so bad. He was the one that made the law that he ran all of the mediums out of the land. But when he needed some information and he couldn't connect to Samuel himself, he went and summoned a medium. They turn around and tell us crystals and stones are bad. The Levitical priests had the 12 stones on their breastplate. Now, they claim that those were the 12 stones for the nations of Israel, but they can't say that about Urim and Thummim. Look up Urim, Urim, and Thummim, Thummim. Those were it was a pouch that they had on their breastplate that were divinatory tools. You said, what? Yeah. Honestly, we are the same, but we really have to understand that religions, all of them, all of the Abrahamic religions, they are a way to hoodwink and bamboozle humanity. We are under the binding spell of Yahweh. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. It's right there in their book. Yahweh has never had love for humanity, not since he first set foot on this planet from Nibiru. He is the destroyer. He told Abraham he is El Elyon, the destroyer. He wanted us gone from the time of the flood. He was mad when he found out we survived. He don't mean us no good. Um, I gotta look. I'm gonna look at this something else. I wanted to look at something in Exodus, but somebody else also brought up. Hold on. They brought up. Someone asked me something about the Buga sphere, and I had to look to see what that. Because again, I don't watch mainstream television, so I wasn't aware that they had a major sighting of the sphere. Why do people have a hard time? Somebody asked me, what do I think about that? No problem, Lioness. I appreciate you. Um, what was the point of making the Bible? The Bible was designed. Okay, if again, you have to go back a little bit past like pre-Bible times to understand what was happening. Before all of that happened, the nation of Israel, before they started serving Yahweh, they were a henotheistic society, meaning they had chosen one of the other Elohim to serve. They had been serving Moloch, which some people feel like, depending on the pantheon you're in, Moloch roughly correlates to Marduk, which is Enlil's nephew, Enki's son, Enlil's nephew. Abraham, who was the first one mentioned in the scriptures to start to serve serve Yahweh. Abraham's father had been a scribe in the temple of Nanasan. And they made the Bible basically to roll out Yahwism to the rest of the world. Israel at that point, and they still very tiny part of the world that they really have major influence over. Adam and Eve, no, if Adam and Eve had truly served Yahweh, they wouldn't have been thrown out of the garden. Yahweh's house was in the Eden. His title when he came here from Nibiru was Satan of the Eden. His house was in Eden. Adam and Eve were made by Enki, and Enki felt bad for having lied to Adam and Eve and telling them that they were gods, and he finally told them the truth, and Enlil got mad about that. Honestly, Melissa, I hear you, dear. You got a lot of stuff going on. And I've seen some of the stuff you're saying, and I can't address all of it. But for real, as all over the place as you are, you've opened yourself. You believe way too much of these people say. Stop listening to them. You've given me like 15 different things that they say and they're trying to do. And I'm not trying to be hurtful or harmful. But if you open yourself and allow yourself to be affected by everything they say, you're never going to get out from under that. You've got to learn who you are and what do you say. Take your power back, dear. Archangel Michael and Yeshua will help you, but you got to take your power back. The hell with what they say. And why would, just if you're Mary, why would you not be able to have children? Mary had a bunch of them. Mary Magdalene had Yeshua's children, and Mother Mary had plenty of them. Yeshua was not a virgin birth. Yeshua was God's baby in that he was an artificial insemination. But Yeshua had brothers and sisters. Mary wasn't barren. Stop believing the hype and the nonsense just because people tell you stuff. And the more you feel like you're under attack, the more you will be. But you're allowing that by leaving an open door for it. Put your energetic protection around you. Know who you are and stop allowing all of that. Yes, Yahweh worship is high black magic. Hi, Niana. Nice to meet you. Nice having you in here today. I'm glad he's helping you then. Good. That's good. You're welcome, dear. Well, the thing is, the mascot didn't never have nothing to do with this religion. He was just put in the middle of this lie when they killed him. That's all. They killed him because he was telling them everything against this. He was raised as a Jew who they was worshiping Yahweh, and he knew Yahweh was the devil, and that's what he told them. And they got so mad that they delivered him up to the Romans. They did not want. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you, dear. Yeah. They wanted to. The Jews wanted Yeshua unalive, but they kind of sort of knew that he might be the Christ that they'd been prophesied about. So they didn't want to do it themselves. So they delivered him up to the Romans. And the Romans did it for him, for the Jews. They did go ahead and put Yeshua unalive. And then 300 years later, they made up that religion and knit him in the middle of it that was supposed to be the bridge from the Jews' worship of Yahweh into the Christians' worship of Jehovah. Same being, but they use Yeshua as a mascot or bridge to that. But for real, that's where the deception and the bamboozling come in, because they convinced people that they killed him for our good, that he had to die, that it's a good thing that they did that, and that all we got to do is plead the shed blood of Jesus, and we'll be all right, and we'll be pleasing to Sky Daddy, and we'll be on our way to heaven. That is a bald-faced lie. They've sucked us into high ritualistic black magic by doing that. And we can't see it. Hi, Michelle. There is a supreme God, but truthfully, the supreme God, if we want to call it that way, because I understand everything that we look at is based on the serious programming that has been beaten into us from childhood. So we feel like there's got to be a top banana. That's the way Yahweh has programmed his people to think. That's the way we grow up thinking. So if somebody comes in and tell you Yahweh ain't the one, then you got to find out who the right one is so you can shift your worship and go bow to that one. The supreme being, the divine, the creator of all, who put us here before we got hybridized, has chosen not to weigh in on this. He's never demanded our worship. He's never even put in an audience. He didn't even put in an audience with Inky and them after they came in here and invaded his house and tampered with his creations. I'm saying his only because that's his or her. But Inky and them is the closest we could get to a so-called God, a different Elohim. But that particular different Elohim, the one who actually was the progenitor of the human race, does not call for our worship. That is strictly a Yahweh thing. He's the one that demanded we have a worship gene put in us. The only reason you want to worship something is because you have a genetic predilection to worship, because Enlil insisted that our human genome have a worship gene embedded in it. He said, what? According to the mainstream, if you listen to mainstream Christian Bible scholars, you're going to stay lost. That's the point. That's the whole point. Now that was just rude, Barney. Jonathan, if you continue that, you can just you see you're gonna be already be timed out. Yeah. Right. Well, Michael, the scriptures say who translated a whole bunch of people. There was a whole lot of translators on the Bible team. It wasn't just one. That's the part that people don't understand, and it's been translated over and over and over. And again, a lot of people want to split hairs on whether the translation is correct, but truthfully, they have been altering and truncating and redacting this document ever since they dug them scrolls up out of the ground. And some of it was intentional. You're never going to find a completely accurate translation of this because they deliberately remixed it to create a specific narrative. For example, when we get in the scriptures, Job, Esther, Job. Okay. Now, the way they put the scriptures in place, Job is almost smack dab in the middle of this book. When in fact, Job actually happened probably before any of this stuff other than chapter 1. It happened somewhere between chapter 3. Job was early on, not too long after the Garden of Eden stuff happened. The timelines have been all skewed, chopped and screwed, as they say in here. Some of the things that happen in here, even the significance. When we read in in Leviticus and Deuteronomy and all of that, all of the who begat who, and this one begat that one, and this one lived 900 years, and this one lived 600 years, and all of that stuff, we're told that that's significant because it's supposedly leading to the lineage of Yeshua through David. But the real significance of that is that the Anunnaki was careful record keepers. Look at the Sumerian kings list. The Adam and Eve story is a story of a breeding experiment that they did, and they kept careful records of the lineages that came out of the initial breeding pair. Now, the Bible doesn't talk about the secondary breeding pair, which was Adapa and Titi, the first civilized people. There's a whole lot that's left out of here, but if you go and look at the Babylonian texts and the Anunnaki texts and the Sumerian texts, it'll give a whole lot more context to this. Michelle, honestly, that's one of the things that keep people so blind there, because the church has told us it's mythology. Why is it that Christianity is real and everything else is mythology? If we stop believing that it's a fantasy or a myth and actually understand that just like everything else, they hide the truth in plain sight. I'm not saying that all of these records are 100% absolutely infallible as if it was recorded live by Memorex, because we know there's a little bit of spiritual telephone happening. But a lot of this stuff there's a whole lot of folks that went through that. Jesus story is not new. Yeshua was just the latest of the Christos that happened with. But again, when you start saying names like Osiris and Tammuz and all the rest of those, you're going back to the Babylonian and whatever. And if you believe that actually happened, it's not myth. No more so than this. If that's myth, so is this. If that's true, there's some truth in this, but this has been deliberately culled and taken from those older stories to create a narrative. But this, truthfully, is the story of Enlil and Enki, with a whole lot of details left out. That's why in Genesis 2, where it says, "Let us make man in our image," there's more than one Elohim being spoken about in the scriptures. One of them is mean, nasty, rotten, lying SOB. And the other one is kinder and gentler and milder, and pretty much gets pushed to the background until you see him coming back to the rescue in Revelation 21. Well, you don't have to believe any of it's true. The only reason I believe some of it's true is because I actually went back to the Anunnaki text, and they're not telling it with a spin of trying to make one be all right and everybody else wrong. Yahweh is very vain and had a lot of stuff put in there like on a liar. You said what, ancient humans? created myths and inscribed them in the rocks in the form. Right. They didn't do that. They didn't. There's too many of these texts coming around, Michelle, for you to think that it's just idle fantasy or idle fiction. We the ones that sit there and lie and truncate and make up a whole bunch of stuff for entertainment purposes. Making those scrolls and stuff was the job of the mystics and the priests and stuff. They took too much time, they were too labor intensive, and not that many people knew how to write. So they was not down there just writing high fiction for the hell of it. It was very culturally significant. They didn't have the leisure time, but you're saying it's mythology, Michelle. That's why she said what she said, because they didn't write it as fiction. Religion today has convinced us it's fiction, and we, from a very arrogant, ignorant place, we spout that, oh, it's mythology. No. Why is it mythology? Because Christianity told us it's mythology. That's why. Because the powers that be will only allow us to accept it as mythology. But I'm telling you, when you start reading those texts and hearing the same characters being mentioned, but getting more of the story, they don't contradict this. They just give you more of the story. Then you come to understand that this is the abbreviated version. This is closer to mythology than the rest of it. The Sumerian Kings list isn't mythology, that's a historical document. I understand that. I know exactly what the marking on the forehead is, dear, and I do it because I choose to. Because Enki in the Hindu pantheon is Lord Shiva, and he is my guide. So I know exactly why I put a bindi on my forehead, dear. I'm not ignorant. I only wish that Christians and all of them actually knew what they was doing. Why do they make up so many fallacies about the Bible? Because they don't want you to know the truth. They can't tell you the truth that the same Satan that they're talking about in Genesis and the same Satan that they say has the whole world in the power of the wicked one, the same Satan that's going to be destroyed in Revelation, they ain't going to tell you that that's Yahweh because that's who you serving under the name Jehovah or Allah or Yahweh. That's why they don't tell you the truth, because you have been hoodwinked and bamboozled and tricked into serving a dragon. They have painted what is right wrong, and what is wrong they call right. Just like they quick to tell you the false light, beware the false light. Never meant, they don't even know that they the damn false light. The whole while, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are false light. And you know how you know they false light? Think about the world that we live in and the world it would be if people were actually following the Enkiite religions instead of the Enlilite religions. Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism are Enlilite religions. Enkiite philosophies, I shouldn't say, because Enki don't even have a religion. They're Enkiite philosophies, such as Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism. A Buddhist will never pick up a pew-pew and unalive nobody. If the whole planet was following Buddhism, there would be no wars on this planet. There would be no grape on this planet. There would be no trafficking on this planet. There would be no racism on this planet. There would be no poverty on this planet. We have all of that stuff because the people that worship Yahweh do the same stuff that Yahweh do. He allows it. He sat there and gave them instructions on how to treat their slaves. That's nonsense. Anybody that endorses slavery is not of light. Exactly, Antoine, exactly. But you would never find none of them up at nobody's recruiting office to go fight a war for some fat cat sitting up in Washington or anywhere else to go over and unalive innocent people in another country. It'll never happen. Ever, 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 ever. But again, pal, if you were here earlier, you would have heard me say in the Hindu pantheon, there are some Elohim that are not about violence and all the rest of that. A lot of things have been adulterated and watered down over the years. But overall, even if you include Hinduism in what I said, they do have some very violent, vengeful, well, like Kali is a destroyer, but she's also a great mother and a protector. But those sections or those belief systems are not what's waging the wars on this planet. You said what? The point is, pal, is that you don't have to have a religion. The idea of us having to have a religion was instilled in us genetically at the insistence of Yahweh. When they came here from Nibiru and his brother Enki fashioned us, when he said, let us make man in our image, he was talking to Ninmah and Thoth and Enki. They hybridized a primate that they found here and made Homo sapiens sapiens. We are something new unto the universe. And in that regard, truthfully, we've been told we're dirty and we nothing and we got to wait till we get to heaven to get to the da-da-da. All of that stuff that Christianity lies and tells us, actually, we kind of a big deal. People was coming from Nibiru and from everywhere else to see us because we are something new unto the universe. If you don't like what I'm saying, Carlos, you can leave. I'm not talking nonsense. And the fact that you think that, your mind is not awake, my love, and it's okay. It's okay. And again, the reason I don't really mention Hinduism much is because, like I said, it has been adulterated to the point that it's brought in a lot of violent deities as well. It is not Enki-ite in its purest form. It does include some stuff that I can't really recommend. That's why I don't really mess with Hinduism like that. But Lord Shiva is my guide in a different pantheon, and I choose to wear a bindi, so I do. No, we didn't used to be lizard people, honey. We were a primate, meaning, again, they've proven genetically. Now, again, don't want to offend nobody's sensibilities, but if you're going to tell the truth, we are genetically more similar to monkeys and apes. All of us, don't make it a racial thing, or you can get right the hell up off of here. All of us come from that because we were hybridized with the Anunnaki. Some of the Anunnaki are reptilian. Some of them came from some of them are Lemurian, some of them are Pleiadian, some of them are Zeta Reticuli. We've had that conversation in other days on the channel, but we weren't lizard people per se. We were made, we, like I said, we are a hybrid. We have Lord Enki and Ninmah personally lended their DNA to the hybridized zygotes that became Adam and Eve. And then later on, Lord Enki noticed that that the Adam and Eve genome was devolving after a whole bunch of years, close to 130,000 years. They noticed that Adam and Eve's genome was devolving. He shored up the human genome by mating with several humans. Dawn and Dusk gave birth to Adapa and Titi. Myth of Adapa, go check that out. Then we have, like I said, in the Enuma Elish, we can see Wazir Zudra was Noah. He was a hybrid. Enoch was a hybrid. Lamech was a hybrid. Kenan was a hybrid. Those are all people that are mentioned in the Bible. They just don't tell you that they're Anunnaki hybrids. They were sons of Enki. I don't have to know about Hinduism. I told you I don't want to talk about Hinduism, but you know what? Guess what? I'm in America, and if I want to wear a bindi on my forehead, I can do that. How about that? Since you want to sit here and have me prove and defend to you, I don't owe you an explanation as to why I choose to wear a bindi. or why I choose to wear a sari or a salwar kameez or Punjabi pajamas or any of the rest of that. I can do that if I want to. Enki, Enki, Enki. That was his name. Ea was his name on Nibiru. Ea Enki, and Ea was another name for Earth. When they came from Nibiru to Earth, he was Ea Enki, Lord of the Waters. Enlil, his brother, was Enlil, Lord of the Command, Satan of the Eden. And Enki was Ea of the Apsu. Exactly. But you still sitting here talking about it. Enkiite, well, I'm saying Enkiite philosophies in a lot of the religious communities. And again, I'm speaking the way that I am, Niana, because I have listened to and read information from a lot of the Bible scholars and stuff, like Paul Wallace and Mario Bellino and those different ones that speak in those terms. And the Abrahamic religions are referred to as Enlilite religions because they all stem back to Enlil. Bible scholars know this. The lay people that follow, that have been raised in churches that was run by lay people, don't know this. But if people have been to an actual seminary and really understood a deep core foundation of religion, they understand that Yahweh is Enlil. You said Enki is how you spell Enki. No, Satan hasn't completely fallen yet because we don't have peace on this earth yet. Let's go back to Revelation. We're in Revelation, true enough, but we have the final battle, if you will, of the Anunnaki war, the Armageddon thing. We might be at the beginning edges of it, but it ain't really rocked out. A lot of churches want to bring that, to the forefront and try to figure out where we are in the scheme of things. But it says in 20, I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan and Yahweh, and bound him. It doesn't say and Yahweh in the scripture, but the devil and Satan is Yahweh. Enlil, Yahweh, was the Satan of the Eden. So, but yeah, it says he seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years and threw him into the pit and shut it and sealed it over him so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be released for a little while. Honestly, before it's over with, all the churches are going to go. And truthfully, I've noticed online like a resurgence of the Christian apologists kind of trying to pump up Christianity again. But I also noticed, because I pay attention to stuff, over the past 20 years, Christianity has lost a lot of its oomph and grip on people. The next generation of kids really ain't, they got enough sense. That's one of the reasons I would love to, I have to continue to speak on these things because Yeshua put it on my heart to speak. But I'm truthfully, the ones that be coming at me is a lot of these old heads, and I know they're not going to get it. Like as Yeshua said, they didn't listen to him. They unalived him for speaking the truth. So I get it. They're going to argue so hard to keep serving the dragon. But guess what? They ain't going to live forever. And the newer generation of babies that are coming along are going to be more open-minded. They've been around this information more than the old heads have. You mentioned Zechariah Sitchin and Malachi York and those different things. And a lot of those younger kids are already starting to read that information. They don't have a hard time believing that we've been lied to with Christianity. And they don't mind walking away from it because they don't have that feeling, that guilt, that fear of burning hell and all of that. The younger generation don't give a crap about that. So within the next 2, 3, 4 generations, Christianity is going to lose its stronghold on the planet anyway. And Islam and Judaism ain't far behind. because they either gonna fight each other to death or they gonna be to unalive each other to try to get to nirvana. Either way, them old heads that's so sure that they willing to die for that, they'll be gone soon. Yes, Yeshua came to enlighten. He studied under Baba G. It is said. Now, obviously, I don't know. It is also said that he did his time with the Tibetan monks. Yeah. If you listen to his teachings, again, carve away all the other crap that's in the Bible and actually look at a red letter edition of the scriptures at what Yeshua actually had to say that they quoted him as saying. Melissa, I'm not sure what's going on with you, honey. I think you can't be involved in everything. And if you do, I would highly recommend you quiet your mind somewhere. And it's nice to be open-minded, but everything that's been said on this live stream for the last hour and a half, let you tell it you knee deep in the middle of it. You can't be. That leads to mental instability, my love. Okay. So Malachi is your twin and an old friend. Okay. All right. Whatever. Ain't nobody. Pal, I'm not sure what you got going on either. I don't know if you about here, or you just here to. So I'm going to ignore you. That's what I'm gonna do. She don't have to put you out of here, but I'm letting you know I'm going to ignore you because it seems at this point you just trying to keep some foolishness going. Okay, well exit then if you want to. That's fine. No, I'm saying if you want to, I'm not telling you to go buy a Bible. I'm saying if you actually read what Yeshua is attributed to having having said unique, then you would understand that what he's teaching are very much in alignment with, like I said, Buddhist type teachings, Kundalini yoga, things like that. Yeah. If you feel like you need to, then yeah, you can go, sweetheart. Everybody's always free to go, and I ain't got no hard feelings about it. You're always welcome to come back if you choose to, but you got to quiet your mind. I'm not trying to have nobody wandering around in instability. We're trying to teach and learn here, not heckling and not opening you up to so much stuff that you don't know who you are or what you stand for. Everything you said in that live, if you're still listening, all that stuff can't be true. And if it is, you literally are seriously under some kind of psychic attack that you need to go somewhere and heal from. Because all that stuff can't be true at the same time. I wasn't talking to you, baby Michelle. I was talking to Nico Lisa. She seemed to have something going on over there, and it was just starting to get distracting because, like I say, if we'd have to all stop and hold hands and pray for her if all that stuff was true. Between her and Pal, it literally seemed like instead of actually asking real questions or trying to get some help, they was just trying to do a form of heckling. That's all. Yeah. Of course the scriptures speak of him. He was prophesied to. And here's the thing. Now that they gone, I'm gonna say something that this is not. There's no scripture that I can read from it. Oh, right, right. I feel you. There's yeah, she got some issues going on, but that's okay. But yeah, I feel it. And I wanted to her and Pal, but again, I'm not angry with anybody, but they were becoming distractive to what we're trying to do here. So it's best that they both left for a little bit there. But yeah, Peterbilt, when the scriptures are talking or speaking of him, there were certain things that are described in Yeshua's actual walk when he got here that make it very clear that he was very much aware of the ancient prophecies, certain things that he intentionally did in front of other people to be fulfilling those prophecies. That's one of the reasons why in you'd have to go back into some of the other messages, the pre-recorded messages I have on the channel, not in the live streams, but the pre-recorded ones. In the past couple of weeks, as we were going through the Emerald Tablets, I've really been sitting with the idea and the notion that if Hermes Trismegistus is the thrice born incarnation of Thoth, I highly, highly believe that Yeshua was the second born. Yeshua came along 500 years before Hermes, but Thoth, after he stopped ruling as Thoth and as Quetzalcoatl and as Kukulkan and all of them, he said he went into the halls of Amenti and he went into this deep meditative state, and there he met the dweller. And when he went through his initiations and ascension phases and all the rest of that, through his periods of Aguanti and his cycles of rejuvenation, he reached a point where he was granted immortality. And rather than just be free to roam the galaxy in his enlightenment, he did some of that, he described in the Emerald Tablets, but then he went before the dweller and asked to be taken to the master of death to have his light freed from the realm of death. And they granted him that. He was granted immortality. And he asked at that point if he could return to the sons of Kim to be a light in the world to them, to help them expand their humanity, their consciousness, so that they could rise out of this cycle of forgetting and being lost, because he knew that there were dark powers here that had set mankind on a trajectory of darkness and being lost. I don't have a problem with accepting it. And again, I don't have an issue with accepting a lot of this as historically accurate, because I realize that it is culled from other documents. It's not completely historically accurate because it was deliberately manipulated. Christians want to believe that this is the infallible word of God written by the hand of God, and it was not. It's a manufactured document that is an abbreviated version of a lot of other historical documents, and deliberately arranged in such a way to paint a false narrative. If I didn't believe that this was accurate at all, then I wouldn't believe in Yeshua, but I do, because there's some people on this planet that choose not to even believe that Yeshua was real, even though thousands of people do believe it, millions of people, billions of people believe it. And some people still try to, in their ignorance, and again, that's the thing, ain't none of us on this live over 100 years old, except maybe that 100-year-old man. But none of us are over 100 years old, but yet people are so arrogant in what they think they know, to the point that they get aggravated with what other people choose to believe. And all I'm saying is, when I looked at this book and the other books, again, but the New Testament was written in such a way that it flies in the face of everything that Yeshua was actually teaching. It was the vehicle to roll out Yahwism, of the newest, latest, greatest iteration of Yahwism, because by the time this was printed, Islam was already a thing. So that's another iteration of Yahwism. Judaism was the first. Islam came along second, and then they rolled out this to reach even more people, because at that point in time, Muslims were in a very concentrated place, and truthfully, Muslims and Jews were kind of together in the same area. And the Jews had been over there doing their thing for the longest, but they were very much a separate people. And Islam was spreading a little bit more, but it was still a separate thing. But both of those were factions of Yahweh worship. They just called Yahweh something different. And then they turned around and took this story that they had of unaliving Yeshua, and the Romans did it. And then the Romans, them same Romans that unalived him, turned around and created this new religion and knit him in the middle of it as a mascot and put a spin on that story. But the whole New Testament, supposedly written by Paul, and like you say, I had my suspicions too, that they're not, all of those books are not written by Paul, but they crank out basically tearing down what everything else that the Jews stood for. They're supposedly making the corrections because they're letters right to the Corinthians, right to the Ephesians, right to the congregation at Thessalonica, right to the Philippians, right to the Galatians. And in all of those letters, Paul is basically telling them, you got it wrong, you ain't shit, you was doing the wrong things, you're going to tighten up, and this is what you're going to do moving forward. This is the way we're going to move forward. Forget what you heard. This is the new way forward. That's what the New Testament is for. Now, again, even though I understand that they were writing in the style of whomever and whatever, under Luciferian law, they still have to tell you somewhat of the truth, even if they hide it in the middle of a lie. That's the reason why I still believe the end of the book in Revelation. Don't matter who wrote it. They put that lie in there, lie or truth. I still believe part of it, because here's another thing we didn't know. We are energetic beings, and our power of intention as energetic beings, gods, if you want to call it that, are strong. So the very fact that they got billions of people to buy into this nonsense, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're marching ourselves to Armageddon if we don't stop the foolishness and pull back the reins on it and discover the truth. And yes, unique healer, we do have to go back to the original. That's why on this channel, that's why I was looking at this and looking at this. This book go back 445,000 years to when they jumped off the spaceship the very first time. In fact, they tell you about some of the stuff that was happening on their home planet before they even got to Earth. This is the beginning. But people don't want to believe this is real. But they'll take all of this chopped up mess, truncated mess, and believe in this, but then don't want to believe this. And Zechariah Sitchin was very serious about translating this document and gave his life, his life's work was to translating the Anunnaki texts. Honestly, I don't care about how many letters Trump got in his name, because 666 does not mean what people think it means. Your mind is, you need to open your mind a little further, baby. You really do. Right, but the thing is, Michelle, if you've heard me speak on that, let's look a little bit further, because honestly, the church would have us believe that Revelation is a doomsday story for us that we've got to be afraid of. And if you read it with some understanding, you actually understand that it's not. Honestly, I was going to speak on that whole thing, P. Vader, and good to see you. Good to see you. When they was talking about the Booger sphere, I don't know why people doubt that. We've had some kind of extraterrestrial presence on this planet ever since they first got here. They've never totally left. And again, like I said, we are an anomaly in the universe. They dared to play God, and they created a new species by hybridizing a primate along with the Anunnaki DNA. We kind of a big deal if you ain't know. And plenty of folks from plenty of star systems and rolled up here to see and check it out and see for themselves what we're doing. We are connected to it all. You said, what your argument to them is, if God is not a God of confusion, why are they all confused? Exactly. Because he is because Yeshua told you he's a liar and the father of a lie. So he can say he's not a God of confusion, but everywhere on this planet, 3/4 of the world worship Yahweh in one form or another. And we ain't had not near day's peace on this planet since the Yahwist religions rolled out. None. Nowhere. There's been poverty somewhere, everywhere. You said, what does knowing about Enki do for us? If you understand who Enki is, it do a lot for us, Peter. And let me get to this. Let me read something for you. But I need you to open your mind, okay? I need you to open your mind. And it's a lot, the story is a lot cooler than you think if you actually understood it, or if you can see it this way. And again, I may not have the definitive answer, but honestly, from what Yeshua has led me to believe, I think I got a pretty decent handle on this. It's a whole lot more encouraging than the lies and the truth that the religions tell us inside of Christianity. Most of Revelation, if you remember in the beginning of Revelation, oh, but honestly, I don't have no choice, Unique. It's a fire in my belly placed here by Yeshua. So regardless of who don't like it or how many times I got to say it, how many times did Yeshua have to repeat it? Every day for 3 years. He prepared 18 years for his ministry. His ministry lasted 3 years on foot out there in the Middle East in that damn heat, talking to these people that wasn't trying to hear nothing. And he had to say it over and over. And I know he was sick to death of their behinds, but he kept going. So I don't have no choice but to keep going. And those who can hear it and want to hear it will hear it. Those who can't hear it and won't, they won't. But I believe the ones who can hear it, the reason it's important is because according to the Anunnaki text, if you go all the way back to the beginning, after the flood, they knew the flood was not caused by Enki. They couldn't prevent it. It wasn't caused by Enlil, excuse me. He wanted us gone, but he did not actually cause the flood. It was a natural disaster that has something to do with the orbit of Nibiru coming close to Earth. Ever so many cycles, it comes close enough to Earth that it messes with the gravitational pull and our magnetic poles and stuff. But they knew that before 2 more showers were complete, that another Earth cataclysm was going to happen. We in the second shar right now. Hi, Sammy Zach. We're in the second shar. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but you know one thing I do know? I know the powers that be don't think this is mythology. I know that they understand and believe. And you know how I know? In 2009, they made a movie called Knowing, where the earth was going to be destroyed by a cataclysm and they could not stop it, and aliens from the other planet rolled up here and said that the cataclysm was coming and the whole earth was going to be scorched, and they were going to save a contingency of people off of the planet. They were going to take genetic samples of the flora and fauna of the planet, as well as a large group of children and a few adults to serve as their teachers. And once the cataclysm hit, they knew when it was coming, they just couldn't prevent it, but they didn't want humanity to be completely destroyed, so they were going to take them up in the spaceships, and once the cataclysm was over, they would bring them back and allow for Earth to be seeded, the formation of new Earth. Now that's an entertaining movie, but it's a whole lot of stuff Hollywood show us that's hiding the truth in plain sight. They call it entertainment, and a lot of it isn't just entertainment. What do I think about Muhammad? I don't think very much about Muhammad, peace be upon him, or not. I think that he was bamboozled by Yahweh the same way that Abraham was. Because he said that he was, first I think he spoke to Gabriel and then he spoke to Yahweh and Yahweh told him to write. But here's the thing. You also have to remember, again, the Jews and the Muslims were kind of in the same part of the world, intertwined. There wasn't clear separation between those people. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was illiterate. Muhammad don't even know if they wrote down what he said. It would be very easy for him to have said he had a vision from God and he had a this and a that, and he went and dictated what he heard to the scribes. It would be very easy for the Quran to have been manipulated for a specific agenda. And as violent as Islam is, it cannot be of the light. It's violent and misogynistic. It cannot be of the light. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Richie Rich. Absolutely. I believe the Matrix movies changed my life for real. Like I say, they're not going to tell you everything, And they're not going to put it exactly. They're going to remix it and call it entertainment. But if you know what you're looking at, you understand that the archons are telling you without telling you. Yeah, I told Adapa and TT, Stephen, they were the actual intelligent humans. Before Adam and Eve, there was the Lulu, and then Adam and Eve were made, but they were sterile. So Thoth put Adam and Eve and Enki and Ninmah to sleep and took DNA from Enki and put it in Adam's side, and took DNA from Ninmah and put it in Eve's side. And by doing that, they became the first breeding pair, but their genome began to devolve after a while, and Enki wound up mating with Dawn and Dusk, and Dawn and Dusk gave birth to Adapa and TT. Yeah, we are in the matrix. Again, de-blessed, Islam say that it's okay to unalive yourself to fight their wars too and take your fellow man out on the way. That lets me know they full of shit. Excuse my French, but yes. You can't be of the light and doing effery like that. You just can't. Stargate is another thing that like I say, they hiding the truth in plain sight. They put it right there to us. And people don't want to, they look at it as fiction and sci-fi and everything else, but they tell us way more. They tell us what we need to know, but most of the world has been dumbed down and are asleep, and they just look at stuff as entertainment and they see it and keep it moving. But the Revelation book, I look at that because they're saying that it was a revelation of Yeshua given to John to let him know the things that will take place. And he's looking into a future time, but all of the symbolism and stuff trips people up. But if you go to that from the 20th, it ends on the 22nd. We looked at that first part where it said they were going to chain the dragon that's called Satan in the pit, and then he'd be released after a while. And then it says that there would be those who basically did not ride with the dragon, so to speak. They would throw themselves before the throne, begging for mercy. They basically the survivors of this last skirmish of the Anunnaki wars. But then when Yeshua comes back, they're getting rid of death, they're getting rid of all the rest of that stuff. And in 21, it says, I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of Elohim is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and Elohim himself will be with them and as their Elohim. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain anymore. The former things have passed away. Behold, I'm making all things new. Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. The Elohim that's coming with New Jerusalem, first of all, we talked about it before. Every time they show up, it's in the clouds, in the smoke, in the fire, the wheel within the wheel, all these vehicles and stuff being described. But there's an Elohim coming down with this new city, this New Jerusalem, and they give the dimensions of it. It's rather large. Don't that sound like a base camp for New Earth at the end of this war? Because like I said, by the time we get to 20, Yahweh, Satan, has been destroyed. All of this other stuff they talked about, the blood running in the streets, the ones who chose to continue to cling to the Yahweh thinking and wanted to rock along with these systems of the world, the powers that be, Babylon the Great, all of those things, the harlot, all of that's been destroyed by the time we get to Revelation 21. And it's a reset, exactly, Sofa King. It's a reset. And what they describe in 21 is the other Elohim that was literally kind of pushed out of the picture way back in Genesis, coming back on the forefront. He's coming down from the heavens with this new Jerusalem, and they described it shining like a jewel, and the different agate and the pearls and it sounds like he's coming down with a base camp, this spaceship landing on earth. He's now going to take over. This other Elohim has ran roughshod and ran humanity off the rails for thousands and thousands of years. Now that Elohim has been chained, abyssed, and destroyed, and another Elohim is coming in here to rule in peace. Again, that now here's the part that I have issue with, Peterbilt, and not trying and just trying to figure out, because it said, it talks about, wait a minute, hold on, let me go back. An angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and shut it, and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be released for a little while. Now, quite honestly, again, I'm not a Bible scholar. I don't have no whole bunch of accolades, but from looking at the histories of the various pantheons and the Elohim and all of that, as far back as they could trace, and I had this came to me one evening. I was watching it. I think it was something that Myth Vision podcast did. It was about a 2.5-hour video I was watching, and in the middle of all of that, when they were I was looking at the timelines, it occurred to me, I honestly believe that the binding and the binding of the chains came somewhere around, well, the work of the church supposedly continued on, the religions and all of that came, but they were kind of operating, I think, kind of off in the blind a little bit. I honestly think that the binding, the 1,000 years, happened in the first 1,000 years CE, on the other side of Yeshua's, after the year of our Lord. I believe that because there was a timeline gap in there, somewhere around 800 or 900, somewhere between 600 and 900 AD. It looks like they reset the gap by the time gap by about 300 years. I do believe that somewhere in that, what we would have called the Dark Ages, is a lot of the time period that Satan was bound, so to speak, because everything was kind of religiously quiet. Yeah, Christianity rolled out. Yeah, Islam rolled out to a degree, and they did that thing, but that was the power, that was a steam-driven power of man and the archons. But after all of that, it really, really got kind of quiet on the planet spiritually for a long time. And then the BS started again. And honestly, I really believe that the unleashing of the dragon from the abyss kind of sort of coincided with the return of Yeshua to the tabernacle for the investigative judgment. Like the Millerites talked about him coming back onto the planet around 1844. And I honestly believe that that probably was true, because look how fast this stuff has ramped up. The violence on the planet, the wars on the planet, the famines on the planet, the immorality. It's like all of the devil and his minions were unleashed on this planet collectively since the late 1800s. I don't know why people don't see that. Because I know we get it. We're looking for the 1,000-year reign to happen after the fact, but it didn't say that it was a 1,000-year reign. It said that he would be sealed for 1,000 years, and then he would be loosed for a little while to do his worst, and then they gonna lower the boom on his ass, and he will be destroyed. And then the 1,000-year reign of peace happens after Elohim return. This new Elohim comes back in Revelation 21. He comes down with the base camp. Let's keep reading. Let's see. He said he's making all things new. Write this down, for these words are true. He said, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give from the spring of water of life without payment. And again, if you remember, if Enki has done his spiritual ascension as well, so that he now has immortality, the Atlanteans already, okay, yeah, whatever. The Atlanteans lived extremely long lifetimes, but they were not quote unquote immortal. But immortality can be achieved, and Thoth got it, and his father, in his spiritual capacity, Enki's other titles were Thotme, and in his Agwanti, as Thoth described, they referred to him as the dweller. So at that point, he has immortality, and he said he will continue to come amongst mankind so that we could ascend. And the 1,000-year reign is kind of significant because, again, in the Emerald Tablets, he says they can stay basically topside with humans for 1,000 years, and then they have to go into the Agwanti, into their stasis state for 100 years to rejuvenate their body for every 1,000 years that they spend on Earth. So the 1,000-year reign of peace sounds kind of like that could very likely be Enki coming out of the Agwanti, deciding to incarnate and take human form, to come back and get Earth established with this new Earth after they've gotten rid of his rotten behind brother Enlil. Yeah, honestly, Aniko, that's what we do here. I am very much into the Anunnaki teachings. They're on the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel. There's a playlist on my channel called the Emerald Tablets, and the compendium that goes into the reading of the Emerald Tablets. There's one called the Lost Book of Enki. That's a reading of the Lost Book of Enki. When we finish, right now we are on we're getting ready to do tablet 10, I think, in the Emerald Tablets. But once we complete the compendium of the Emerald Tablets, we'll be going into, let's see where we at here. Oh, Lord. Let me see. Yeah. I don't have them all right hand, but the first one, wait a minute. I think Genesis Revisited is the first book in Zechariah Sitchin's Earth Chronicles, but we'll be getting into this and kind of looking further at all of this because, again, this brother spent his life writing about this stuff. This ain't all. This is the Earth Chronicles series. There's plenty for us to learn and try to get to right here. A wealth of information. We can act like we don't know, but we got plenty to look at. Yeah. Oh, Enki getting ready to kick butt. Because again, that's his brother. But oh, thank you, D Bless. And honestly, that's what I'm saying. That's kind of the way to get up to speed before we get into these. Because this is probably, I don't know how long it's gonna take. And once I get through these paperbacks, I've got some that are not considered Earth Chronicles, but it's Journey. What is it called? Journeys to the Mythical Past, the Earth Chronicles Handbook, the Anunnaki Chronicles, The King Who Refused to Die, and There Were Giants on the Earth. Those are all books by Zechariah Sitchin that we can go into. And then after we finish those, we're going to go into Paul Wallace's Eden series and I love Wallace because he is looking at this from the point of paleo contact, examining the Bible against the Anunnaki text as well. He was an archdeacon in the Anglican Church for 33 years before he actually started learning and looking at the translations and understanding that he was looking at paleo contact. What look like, Antoine? But it's not a behavioral phenomenon, Michelle, when you understand that we had a worship gene inserted into us intentionally to make us want to worship stuff. Belief ain't a phenomenon. It was put into us as a genetic flaw, if you will. But when Enki was forced to do that, Enlil wanted that. Yahweh insisted that we had a worship gene put in us. But Enki was the geneticist that actually did it, and he gave us the ability to turn it off. Exactly, Unique. He did it because his brother insisted that we were given that gene, but he also gave us the ability to turn that gene off. Honestly, Antoine, I would imagine go look at the hieroglyphs on in Egypt. That'll probably give you a large clue as to what they look like. And truthfully, if you think about it, they could probably shape shift and look like pretty much whatever they want to look like. Look at but within reason, because if you think about it, Poseidon is always kind of represented. Actually, he kind of attractive. If you, I mean, maybe that's just me when I like, but Poseidon, Olokun, and Shiva kind of look the same. The only thing they really have in common is their very dark skin, blue. Thoth is always promoted as this bird man with the ibis head and the body of a man, the hieroglyphs and stuff. But here's the thing: Anunnaki just means the ones who came from heaven. And the Anunnaki, the Niburians, the Atlanteans, were an amalgamated race, a diverse race of people, if you will, a diverse civilization. Like here in the US, we're all Americans, whether we come from German lineage, indigenous American, African, Indian, Japanese, Chinese, on and on and on, Samoan, Hawaiian, Canadian, whatever. We're all American, and the Anunnaki were the same way. It started out with two refugee factions from the galactic wars, but by the time they decided to colonize themselves and make government, and they understood Nibiru was going to be their new home, they opened their doors and allowed a lot of different beings from a lot of, like I said, displaced beings that were displaced by the galactic wars. They allowed a lot of different races, if you will, into their being, but they were all just known as the Atlanteans. So, and that's part of the reason I believe why we look so different, as the breeding and the whatever. Like I said, when the Watchers came and took women, and Enki was out there breeding with different humans and doing his thing, but others of them did too. Marduk married Sarpanet. Remember, there's a bloodline there. And if Yeshua is the second born incarnation of Thoth, and he had a bloodline that he left behind here, yeah. And Krishna is blue, yeah. And he's gonna be back for, yeah, all of that. And that's the point, Richie. Honestly, at the end of the day, it really don't matter whether they're light blue, dark blue, purple, green, tan, brown like us, because again, we talked about that yesterday. Melanated people, that's all of us for real, to a lesser or greater degree. Kinkier or straighter hair, a little bit lighter here, a little bit darker there, nose a little bit wider, nose a little bit thinner, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you was to strip this little 2 millimeters of skin off the top, we all look the same. I don't know, because I wasn't on the genetic process, Michelle. I don't know which chromosome exactly innervates for God worship. I just know that according to the lost book, that was done. I didn't get a chance to ask Enki which one it was, and truthfully, I wasn't never that good in chemistry class, and I was interested in biology, true, but I wasn't never good enough in chemistry class to think I would even understand that answer, even if he decided to give it to me. Okay, Because guess what? At the end of the day, though, Antoine, we're the only ones that really get stuck on gender and stuff. Even, I mean, in India, they recognize several genders, and there's well, I forgot where it is. Is it India or somewhere else that has like five genders? But anyway, again, well, right now in America, they got all of that craziness. The God gene, or actually, I honestly believe that, well, the God cell, our diamond core God cell is something completely different. Yeah, five genders. Hi, Ethan. How are you? Yeah. Well, I say, well, we get ready to get up out of here now. We'd have been here for 2 hours. But yeah, yeah, I would love to know what they look like. I honestly want to, I would love to be able to meet Inky and Thoth and Nidma and all of them. And again, they've been portrayed so many different ways through the different pantheons that, you know, uh, gender is a spectrum to a degree, but sex is not. That's been like the biggest thing through all of this nonsense that's been happening for the past 4 or 5 years on this planet or in America. It ain't happening on the planet, it's happening in America. That's mental illness that all of that stuff is going through. And I'm so sorry. I know it's a lot of folks that ain't gonna agree with that, but I have a lot of folks that's in my family, friend group, people that I love that are part of the LGBT community, and they ain't down with that mess either. That is a split in the matrix that we came along with this timeline shift that happened around 2019. Hi, Maria. Good to have you. Thanks for stopping in here today. You have to be, Michelle, because honestly, I feel the way I feel, and if somebody gets real crazy, disrespectful, they'll have to go. But at the end of the day, I understand the reason that they lash out like that is because it is challenging their programming. I had to challenge my own programming. Even when it came down to the idea of accepting that perhaps Yeshua was the second born incarnation of Thoth, I had to sit with that for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute now. But the more I look at the two texts back and forth and what each of them were saying, I'm like, I really, really think it might be. Well, intersex is a whole different situation. Typically, Richie, that is a birth defect. When the body decided to roll out both at the same time, Homo sapiens sapiens were not intended to be intersexed. That usually is something that either leads to quite a bit of emotional angst for the people that that happens with, or they used to wind up making a choice, and those ones did need to be surgically altered to one way or another, because having both of those hormone profiles running rampant in the human body can lead to emotional suffering, instability. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. Hope you get a lot to learn from us here, because like I said, I'm learning too. I haven't, I can't, I mean, there's a lot of books to read. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you I've read them all, but that was one of the things that made me start getting more active with the channel too, because I knew once I got gobsmacked by the Lost Book of Enki, and that was a revelation for me as well. It was last October. I sat back and my boyfriend and I, we used to do this thing where we would sit back and do like watch African movies. He lives in Ghana, so we would watch movies together. And then I got a while here. I want to start looking at some of like the apocryphal stuff. So we're going to start listening to the apocrypha together. And when I went looking for an apocrypha playlist, like an audio version that was pleasing to the ear, it just so happened that Astral Legends TV had uploaded the Lost Book of Enki, like the first part of it. and it was like 2 hours long or whatever. So we watched it like watching a movie together. And then several, say what? Again, honest, no. They are more honest to me, in my opinion. The Emerald tablets are more historically verifiable, and the Lost Book of Enki is more verifiable than the Bible, for real. People that say things like that, Ethan, are typically just people that's wanting to hang on to the lie that is religion. There's no reason for us to disbelieve the Lost Book and believe the Bible. There's no reason for that. Like I said, Michelle, Paul Wallace studied and taught the Bible as an archdeacon in the Anglican Church, one step under a bishop, for 33 years. He was teaching other priests and pastors how to teach, and he learned enough of the truth of this to walk away from it. No, dear, both were not written in the 20th century. They were translated in the 20th century. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth were translated in 1928 by Dr. Dorial, and the Lost Book of Enki, I think, was initially he started working on the translation, I think, in the 60s or something. And truthfully, they chose not to verify it or whatever until like 2016. But again, if you keep waiting on the government to tell you what's approved and not approved, you're going to stay blind and lost your whole life. Think about all of the cures, the real cures for diseases that are out there that cannot be published or given to other people because the medical community will not peer review them and authorize them. So people say it's quackery and it ain't this and it ain't that because they waiting on the governmental systems to approve something. These books will never be truly fully accepted as long as religion got a stranglehold on the mind frame and a voice in politics. Because if you actually could believe in any of these, it would take the teeth out of the Bible and all them other religions. I don't need to test them. What test do you use to test the Bible? The lie that is Enki, Enlil? Hmm? The lie that is the Apostle Paul? The lie that is the Gospels? What do you use to test them with, Ethan? I'm not here to argue with you. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. You can leave. You said you were coming back, and I thought you was coming back because you wanted to learn something. But if you just come in here to argue, that whole what do you test from? That's the stupidest thing that I can ever hear a Bible thumper say, because they can't prove Jack Diddley, but they demand that everybody else prove everything else. We are all less than 100 years old. We can't prove shit except what our mamas and grandmamas plunked our little butts down on a church pew and made us believe. And now you want to cling to it with all this thumping your chest authority about what we can prove. You can't prove none of it. Literary style is one of the things that made me understand that the Lost Book most likely was legitimate. When I heard it, when I watched it the first time, the format that Astral Legends did, it was it was like a semi-animated movie format. So I was watching that as a movie. And then in October, I went down to Florida for my grandson's birthday and all that stuff. And I was visiting with my daughter for a few days. And we got done. They were tired. We were going to bed. And I was sleeping in the living room on the sofa. And I had some time to kill. So it came on me, instead of watching deer meat for dinner and all that other stuff I was going to watch on YouTube, it was like, go back and watch The Lost Book again. And when they started reading it, and I was, instead of watching the cartoon, I closed my eyes and I heard the cadence of the prose, and the thought was given to me in meditation: listen to this with the same kind of respect that you would give listening to a reading of the Bible. And when I did that, I was able to learn some things. Yeah, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody that ain't ready to hear it, but I know what I know from meditation and going back and listening to it, and then going back and reading it, and then going back and listening to it again, and then comparing it with what I saw and knowing of me reading the Bible through and through several times, and then going and reading against the Emerald Tablets and listening to that. In the Emerald Tablets, Yeshua is directly quoting Thoth. He's directly quoted. There are a couple things that Yeshua has said in the Bible that directly quoted things that Thoth said in the Emerald Tablets, and some things that Enki said in this book. In the Lost Book of Enki, they're naming characters that are named in the Bible and the things that are happening. They're just giving more context because they're not truncating the information to put forth a narrative. Enki deliberately, his did you unique awesome in the first part of this book. And if I let me see, I think I got enough juice here to do it. I'll go here again. It's in the playlist, but we're going here since we got a moment for those who are still here in the group. This is an attestation from the scribe who actually wrote this. This was not given as Enki decided to sit down and write it himself, but the reason for him doing it, Enoch, Thoth, Hermes, Yeshua, all the same. I'm not so sure about Enoch, but possibly because, again, Thoth said that he had incarnated at least 10 different times by the time he wrote the Lost Book. I mean, well, truthfully, he'd gone into stasis in his 100-year stasis 10 times. So he had been active for at least 10,000 years at the time of the Emerald Tablets were being written. But it is said that he ruled before he even started going into the halls of Amenti and started that ascension and cycling and all of that. He stayed topside and ruled as Thoth for 36,000 years in Egypt. Yeah. Well, honestly, that wouldn't surprise me in either way, Jeremy, because again, when I asked for any of the ascended masters that were willing to work with me to come forward, initially it was Yeshua and Saint Germain, and immediately thereafter, like within 24 hours, I was reminded I received a physical sign in the way of an actual living ibis that started paying me daily visitations for about a week in the house that I was living in at the time. Every time I go outside to meditate, this little ibis would walk right up the sidewalk and turn around and side eye me and look at me and this and that, and then he'd walk off. Didn't fly off. He walked up and he'd walk away every day for a week. And it reminded me of Thoth. And then, like I said, once I actually got Reiki attuned and all of that, I became closer to, I was led to certain oracle cards and stuff, and I started feeling like I was closer to Metatron. I got these Metatron oracle cards and stuff. But again, I don't have a problem believing that Enoch and Metatron and Thoth are all the same being because I rock with them all. Nibiru probably may be in another dimension, quite honestly. There's some kind of a temporal anomaly or something in the atmosphere, something. There's a reason why Anu said that they could not come back. Ninmah, Thoth, and Enki had been on the planet for too long to physically go back. Marduk and all the rest of them that were traveling back and forth from time, Marduk came in much later, and he had the opportunity to leave if he wanted to. But there were several of them that had come here initially and they had not gone back. There came a point in time that the scientists on Nibiru had been doing, I guess, medical scans or whatever of the ones that were coming back. And they said that Ninmah and Enki and Thoth had been too long to physically go back to Nibiru. And that was one of the reasons why they started doing that stasis thing in the Iguanti underneath the ground. They're still the children of light and they're still here. They're not going to leave us. Enlil wanted to jump ship and abandon us and leave us. Enki had a moral conscience, and once he put their essence in us and we became sentient beings, He saw us more like their children than slaves, and he said they would not leave us and abandon us. So even though they had to go underground to keep living those long lives and rejuvenating their bodies and things, they still attend to our enlightenment because they know the power of the dark one, their brother, is still here. You've heard the music of the spheres. I have too. It wasn't during a hurricane. I tell you something else that happened to me one time, Antoine, since we're here and we just chopping it up. And it's going to sound crazy, but I know I'm with the right family. I can finally tell my truth to somebody that I know will believe me. I can't remember the name of this hurricane, but it was in 20, it was either 2017 or 2018. I was in Sarasota at the time, that real bad hurricane that tore up uh, Puerto Rico so bad. It churned and churned and churned in Puerto Rico for like 4 or 5 days, and then it started heading to Florida. And they were anticipating that it was going to hit Florida at a category 5 as well. And I was in Sarasota, which is on the West Coast, and we were going to evacuate, but we couldn't evacuate because my ex, who I was living with at the time, worked for the hospital. We were literally I'm doing fine, Alex. We were on our way out of town, and his job called and said, "You've been called in to be on the B team for work as essential personnel. If you don't come back and report in, you will not have a job." So I had to ride out that hurricane in a 2-story condo with some old flimsy windows. And me and my daughter and the dog and one of her friends stayed there and rode out that condo. And I didn't know what else to do. I was afraid. So during the hurricane, I decided to talk to the storm. I went into meditation for the better part of 3 days. I mean, I got up and did what I needed to do for my kid occasionally, and I get up and get something to eat occasionally. But most of that time, I stayed in the bed, sitting by the window, and I was in meditation. And I was talking to the storm. And during the course of all of that, I actually heard from some people. Oh, Irma, thank you so much. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Appreciate that. But yeah, I remember hearing the voices of some of the people that transitioned in that storm. And they told me, ask the question, but ask it different. And that's when I started talking to the storm. And I asked her, I was like, you don't understand. These people are not ready for this. They cannot survive it. Please take you and your friends, because by then, not only was that storm coming up, they had two more that was coming out from the Gulf Coast, from up through the alley through Mexico and all that, coming in through the Gulf, and another one spawning out in the Atlantic somewhere. And I said, please, please, I understand. I appreciated her beauty. I respected their power, but ask her to please take your, again, you know what? Imagine how deluded you must be to not have enough of a life to come in somebody's live stream and say some mess like that. It really hurts. It must really hurt to be you, honestly. Yeah. So, but yeah, once I did that, that storm did something that none of the meteorologists predicted. It was supposed to be coming in and hitting Sarasota directly at a category 4. I started talking to the storm and asked her to take her friends out into deep water and play elsewhere, because none of these people through, Alabama and Louisiana, what happened with Katrina and all of that. I'm like, we really are not prepared for that. Please take this storm somewhere else. And in the matter of 4 or 5 hours, that storm shut down to a category 3. In another hour or so, it tripped into Bradenton, I think, at a category 2 or 1, and was a tropical storm by the time it hit Alabama. And all of them storms shut down within 24 hours. None of the meteorologists saw that coming. And that's when I knew I could sometimes communicate with weather. I can't tell you how many times I've been outside and it looked like it's getting ready to rain, and I'm trying to meditate or trying to get somewhere, and I ask them to hold off the rain for another 30 or 40 minutes, and it will. And right when I get in the house and close the door, boom, there it goes. Oshun has made it rain on the front side of our house before, but not on the back. One that time, every day for 3 days in a row, no matter what time I went outside to meditate, I mean, on the porch to meditate, it would start raining. And I asked her if it really was her to make it stop, and it stopped in less than 3 minutes, like 2, 3 minutes, it was gone. Lightning struck directly across. We had a huge picture window, and the lightning struck the tree like right across the street from me. I'm surprised it didn't it didn't set the tree on fire. But the lightning struck, no thunder. Oh, I don't doubt it, but that's what I'm saying. I was tapping into that kind of stuff spontaneously. I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it or whatever, but yeah. So it is what it is, though. We can communicate. We can definitely communicate, but the thing is, and that's why I was talking to that whoever that was that came in with their hateful stuff, talking about how it must hurt to be whatever. When you bound and trapped in ignorance, the scriptures tell you, as a man thinketh, so is he. We are powerful creators. They said, did I not tell ye are gods? The power of the mind is way more than anybody can know. And when you believe you can't, you can't. And I'm not telling you everything, because some people are kind of delusional and they'll try to go and run and do something. It may or may not always work. I'm not sitting here telling you everything somebody think they can do, they're going to instantly do, because sometimes people in their emotional imbalance will want and try to do things that are not healthy for them or other people. And especially that if your mind is still so imbalanced that you want to use your power to influence other people unfairly or do things to other people unfairly, very often spirit won't let you do that. But when you ask from a pure place and with pure intention, yes, at Gmail, modern mystic messages at Gmail with an S on the end. Yeah. So you said every now and then I'll see orbs. Yeah, I don't see auras very well. I feel stuff kind of like, can I just get some situations just instantly give me the ick. Like I said, when I'm around real ugly energies, it feels kind of like chicken wire scratching my skin a little bit. I'm super sensitive to some of those really toxic energies now. I mean, I guess I was sensitive to them before, but they were causing a different kind of havoc or chaos in my life, and I had to understand what that was. But yeah, now I have to kind of distance myself. I keep to myself a lot, you know. And it's not that I don't like people, it's just I had to get rid of all the people in my experience, and I haven't come out of my hermit mode enough to really start connecting with people again. But I also know that what I'm doing here and now, we are going to start building soul family, and when the funding comes, whenever however that comes, I'm going to start working on some projects that are going to start drawing other soul tribe to people, and we will start meeting up and meeting, having, I'll have more physical friends again. But truthfully, you don't have to be in somebody's physical presence to be joined with their energy or to enjoy their friendship and stuff. You dream, you're a dreamer, and that's just it. D blessed. We all, our gifts manifest in different ways, and that's one of the reasons soul families kind of sort of need to come together. Some are dreamers, some can see the future, some can affect the weather, some can physically heal, some can emotionally heal. So we've got all kinds of talents, and we're all evolving on the fly. The star seeds are literally cracking open right now. We're evolving. We're becoming more crystalline too. Go out in the sun, especially if you meditate a lot and you're drinking your water and go out in the sun. And I ain't saying with the lotion on, even without the lotion on. If you grounded and you drinking water and all of that, go out on a sunny day and see if you don't start looking like you picking up little flecks of gold in your skin. You're becoming more crystalline. It does. It does. Honestly, I was concerned, and when I was Reiki attuned last year, I was debating whether or not I wanted to go into in-person practice, even though, like I said, my hands are supercharged. And eventually I probably will do some kind of hands, well, ain't even got to be hands on, but in-person healing. But I was concerned as to whether or not Reiki would be effective with me doing distance Reiki or through the phone, through the screen Reiki. But that experience I told y'all about that tarot reader that I had to help and then had to cut out of my life, that really, the incident scared me, kind of, sort of, if I'm honest, because I had never had to deal with open demon contact like that. I was sitting here talking to that dude on FaceTime and watching dolls and stuff fly off his shelf, and nobody was in the room but him. Hearing doors slam, and he put the carpet down in front of his door, come back and it's rolled up and ain't no wind going and all of that. And when I did what I did and I prayed with him and did my Reiki session and all of that, he told me that night every crystal in his crystal dish on his tarot table, every crystal cracked, and the crystals around a chain around his neck cracked. And he had one necklace that I told him how to bury it in salt and stuff. That one didn't crack, but all of the ones that did crack, he buried them. But he said that night he didn't have no more scratching, nothing was scratching him and all the rest of that stuff. And he said that night he looked out the window and he could see that demon outside that window, but it could no longer enter his home because of the treatments that I had done. And he all the way in New Zealand. And I was able to help him from over here in Atlanta using Reiki through the phone. And yeah, honestly, deal a gift, whatever, go on about your business. Because I know what I did and I know what I can do. I don't need that. Again, it bothered me because while I was doing his reading, I offered to do a little tarot reading for him. And while I was doing the reading, my phone isn't brand new, but it's fairly new. I've never had any glitches or any problems with it or whatever. But 4 or 5 times during that reading, when I looked up, we were doing FaceTime. And on my side of the screen, as I'm doing his reading, all of a sudden my screen was something black would flash across it real quick. Just, I ain't never had nothing black flashing across my screen, much less 4 or 5 times during a phone call while I'm trying to do a reading for this man. But he was under that kind of attack because he played with crap he ain't had no business playing with. He was telling me about all of them issues he was having and whatever, and I looked around. He had a Ouija board on his shelf. He was messing around with the keys of Solomon and stuff, but a dark key. All kinds of, and I've suggested you might want to get rid of that stuff. Well, but that's not a demon, honey. That's your lack of self-control. Don't nothing make you have a lack of, I mean, to some degree, a lack of sexual control can be entity driven to a degree, but most people that do that are just allow themselves to be horn dogs. Hero, you might want to be careful how you talk to me because my mods ain't playing with none of that. They will not tolerate disrespect. I'm not Miss Cleo. I'm not a party trick, although I don't really think Miss Cleo was either. I think in trying to be commercial, she got grossly misunderstood. Yeah, certain people, by their energy and their attitude, they attract those things to them. They do. And but later on, and that was one of the reasons I had to cut him loose too, because in talking to him, what I found out completely by accident, because I thought everything was going to be fine, the next day or two after I helped him like that, we had another conversation, and I should have known to leave this man alone. But anyway, the next time I talked to him, he wanted to read cards for me. I should not have allowed it. I shouldn't have. But we were supposedly been on this friend thing, and I didn't think much of it, so I just allowed him to go ahead. Everything was fine. We got down to the very end of the reading, and he pulled one card that he decided meant that I needed to leave my twin flame immediately. And because I refused to leave somebody that I've been friends with for 5 years and in love with for another 5 years, because I refused to leave my boyfriend over one turn of his cards, He said we could no longer be friends. And I was cool with that because after that, he sent a series of voice notes that really let me know he had a lot of mental instabilities going on. He was under the influence of a witch in the Netherlands. And the crazy part is, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit. When I first started coming online, even on Instagram, I had all kinds of Ifa priests and witch doctors and stuff trying to get me to allow them to read me. They're very aware of my energy and my spiritual calling. So I know they're going to come for me. And apparently, because of him, he's a gateway. This dude that I had been friends with, he basically had allowed himself to be a familiar for a witch, and she was looking into the situation. And so basically she wanted the, people don't want me and my twin together. They really, really want to stop our union. That warlock that I was dealing with on my own situation wants to stop the union. Because we're true divine counterparts, we are mirroring twins. The story of how we came into each other's experience is so weird. We knew it had to be divinely led. We started becoming telepathically linked. We started receiving all kinds of messages in meditation. We've been shown a vision for what we're supposed to do. We've got like a double mission. Our love is supposed to be a testimony, but there is a very distinct work that we're supposed to do once we come into mission. You said what now? D Bless? Why does she want me to leave the twin flame? Because twin flames, to my best understanding, real twin flames. Now, I'm not talking about them people that's out there trying to force somebody. Thank you, Stunner. I'm not talking about somebody that. No, I don't know what he needs anymore because the last time I tried to check on his channel, first, he removed most of his channel stuff. Then he started using AI images. He renamed his channel to something that has something to do with source, being source incarnate. And now, no content whatsoever. The image is still up there. The channel is still there, but it's not active. He's not reading tarot anymore. And that's what really got me. He literally had just picked up his first set of tarot cards about 7 or 8 months ago. I've been reading tarot for myself and for others for 5 years. But he was mad at me because I wouldn't listen to him based on one card that he had turned over. And I would never tell nobody to leave their partner over one turn of the cards, not even mine. Absolutely. Please, if you're here in the live stream, do please like, share, and subscribe. And do subscribe for sure so you can get information as we get into some of the pre-recorded information. But yeah, and you're right, Lioness. They want to tap into your energy field and stuff. And I was going to take it back to what I was shown about the twins. Real, actual twin flames. Like I say, not people that's sitting there in a broken state trying to force a relationship, want to call it a twin flame just because they heard about it somewhere online and thought it sounded cute. I'm talking about for real divine counterparts, twin souls are genuinely coming online in this time period. And last year, we even had a planetary procession or event called the Marriage of the Twins. But it's literally bringing these people into union with each other. And all twins, from my knowledge, are not necessarily romantic couples, but the ones who are, though they are part of the 144,000, which of course the 144,000 are not a physical actual number. There's more than 144,000, I'm sure. I have actual twin sons, but I'm talking about twin flames. That's something different. You said alien love bites masquerade. I don't even think they're alien love bites. I think they're just people that don't realize that the twin flame journey is just the spiritual journey. You can't come in union with your twin until you come into union with yourself. It takes a level of spiritual ascension and mastery before you can truly be. Well, you can try to come in union with a twin, but I honestly think a lot of those really, because they talk about the runner chaser cycles and he ain't acting right and this and that, and I'm so sick of my twin. All of that angst That's because they're trying to make somebody be a twin that's not really a twin. What I mean by a twin flame, there's a theory out there, and I believe it, that there are some souls, if you will, that were they were formed for the first time, basically at the same time and point, whatever point in time or history that it was. Most twin flames have been at this for multiple lifetimes, but when they were formed, it was one soul divided in two, just literally split in two for separate experiences in two separate bodies. Sometimes they're some lifetimes they may be the same sex, sometimes they may not, sometimes they may come together, sometimes they may not. But in this particular time period that we're in, there's a lot of twins that are coming into union, or on here incarnated on this earth together with the potential to come into union. And if they come into union, or when they come into union, because it still depends on both twins have to awaken, and both twins have to ascend and be attracted enough to each other to agree to be in union. Because sometimes you can meet your twin, they might be married to somebody else, and that don't mean that they're going to leave their mate for you. If you've agreed to meet up in this lifetime and be together in this lifetime, it is for the purpose of carrying out a divine mission. Twin flames in union are energetic, like little energetic love bombs. When they come together, the energy that they produce is exponentially greater than they would be. This is a case where the sum is greater than the two are greater than the sum of their parts. When they come together, they are an energetic dynamo, and they will begin to seed love all over this planet. They are secret weapons in God's army of light, so to speak. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Trust me. If you, okay, hold on. Let me see something. For example, when, no, that's not what I mean, I'm not sure what that is about. I've heard of situations, but that's not what I'm talking about, Antoine. I'm talking about, okay, for example, me and mine, um, they will think you're crazy, D Bless. They really will, because it does sound a little crazy. I met my boyfriend at the time. I'll just call, or my twin, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, we haven't physically met yet. Our entire relationship has been online, phone, meditation in the astral, all of that, because he lives on a completely different continent than me. We do intend to meet up together this year, but both of us we've mirrored each other so closely that we've both had the same kinds of financial issues, toxic karmics, family issues, all the rest of that. It's crazy how much we've mirrored. Even we're different, but we're the same. But when we first met, when I first started really meditating, I kept getting a nudge to look up of ex of mine online, or actually just look them up. And I did not want that person to have my phone number. I remembered that that person had a tagged account, and I had a tagged account. So I didn't even know if the account still worked because I hadn't logged in for like 2 years. But I went and logged in to check on this person that I wanted to check on, and left a message for them to see if they would respond. I went back in a couple of days to see if they had responded. And while I was checking on that person, in my inbox, all of a sudden, I see this message from this person. I had like 500 in my inbox because I didn't bother looking or messing with none of them. But this one actually happened to come in while I'm in this app that I had not logged in on for over 2 years. But I got a nudge from Spirit to go look up somebody else that required me to go on this app. And when we got to talking, he was very respectful. I don't even know what it was because I kept him in the friend zone for years. He was considerably younger than me. He lived in another country. I didn't want to do long distance, blah, blah, all of that. But For whatever reason, we wound up being chat friends. We moved it, migrated the conversation from tagged to messenger, and we stayed in the friend zone for like 4 years. But the longer we got to talking, and I found out how we met, how weird that was, because I'm wearing purple, that's why. But anyway, Mr. Wolf, um, purple is just my color. But when I started talking to him, he didn't even have a tagged account. Years ago, when I had that account, I used to play a game on there called Pets. And even though I hadn't been on the app in years, I had played Pets for a while. And because even though I had left the app, I was still being traded on that game. And I had become a very high value pet because of the longevity of the game. He was on another app that I guess was a sister app of Tagged or something. He didn't have a Tagged app at all. He was on another app that offered the game of Pets, and he was trying to learn how the game worked and happened to see me in a bidding run. They were selling my little avatar or whatever with the picture on it. And he was like, oh, she kind of cute. And he went and inboxed me based on watching me being sold in a game he won't even play in, was just trying to understand how to play. And that's how our conversation struck up. We laugh about that. It's so weird, but it's so weird it can't be an accident. You know what I mean? I told my friends that I was going to become celibate because I knew that if I became the kind of woman that would be attractive to the kind of man that I want, that he would come. And he kind of sort of did the same thing from his part or corner of the world. As far as the soulmates or karmics rather, yeah, karmic soulmates are people that are here to help you learn a lesson or clear your karma. There's and it's not even that's why it kind of, when people get so aggravated, upset, they're very about karmics. But karmics have options, like a computer program. If this happens, then that. You could meet up with it's a high level soulmate that you contracted to meet up with during this time period for whatever reason to teach you something. Oh, you're welcome, D Blessed. um and during the course of that time, you can both either learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn in an amicable way. They may be here to just put a burr under your saddle to teach you something or show you something, like I say, to be your, what is that, what they talk about, an adjutant, like your grit of sand to be in your in your oyster to make you make your pearl. You can both wind up becoming romantically involved and ascend together, or one of you learn your lesson and peel away from the other, and the other one may or may not learn the lesson however they choose. Karmics, but like I say, typically there's a lesson in that for both of you. Most of the time it's going to be a significant lesson that we're seeing played out a lot in the reality, whether it's the narcissist empath dynamic or the codependency dynamic, over giving, that kind of, which kind of runs with codependency. There's a lot of those themes that are playing out a lot in this time period that we're living in. And very often, those people that are here that annoy the heck out of you may be very high level soulmates. We want to call them karmics, but just like Gandhi said, I thank those who bring me pain, for they are my teachers. You might not think them in the moment when you really going through it and they're aggravating the hell out you, but at the end of the day, they're here to teach you something. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why it makes it so hard for us to let them go, especially the ones that's annoying us. Because we've all had that annoying friend. We can't figure out why we're still friends, and you want to let them go, but you just can't. Sometimes it may be a contract, but sometimes that's the lesson. Do you love yourself enough to stop people pleasing and allowing a very toxic person and situation in your experience just because it's what they want. What's good about learning spirituality is knowing karmic soulmates and tenfold. So you think everything is a lesson and experience? Right, exactly. Everything is vital for this journey. And truthfully, that's why I hold no animosity. There are certain things that I can talk about along my journey. If I talk about it long enough, yes, I can drum up the emotion of the past enough to be a little teary about it or whatever, but I don't hold rage in my system. I'm genuinely forgiven and don't hold any animosity because people are doing the best they can from wherever they're at that time. And if they're here to teach me a lesson, then guess what? Something in my energy attracted that. I can't just be mad at them, and I ain't gonna stay mad at myself. So I might as well just forgive everybody and go on about my business. Forget the messenger. Did you get the message? Kind of situation. Yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead on and scoot. I believe I definitely appreciated y'all's time today, but we passed the we almost, well, yeah, we passed the 2 hour mark. We almost to the 3 hour mark. And I know I definitely appreciate those that were hanging with me. Unless we've got any last minute questions, I am going to scoot because what I'd like to do, you're welcome, Lioness. You're so very welcome. What I'm going to do, since it's still fairly early in the evening, I'm going to try to plug up my phone and charge it up a little bit and see if I can get a reading out for the collective. I've uploaded the, compendium of the Emerald Tablets reading for the day and that little preview message I did for the Sunday message. But I am going to try to get a couple readings out. If I conk out energetically and can't get them out tonight, I promise I'll get them done in the morning before I go live again. I will put those messages out. Okay. Hey, Aman, you were just getting ready to leave, my dear. Honestly, I appreciate you coming by. Unless you had a real quick question for me, I would like to ask that you subscribe to the channel so you get an alert the next time that I come live or I upload to the channel, and then we can certainly get more information. But we've been on almost 3 hours now, so I'm gonna scoot. It takes a long time. Skinned by Lauren. It takes a minute for them to upload. The one last night uploaded faster than any of them have. Typically, it's been taking 12 to 14 hours for my lives to upload, but I will make it public so that once you see it posted, you'll be able to go back and listen to the beginning. But I did actually, if you set for all notifications, I did a pre-recorded message that kind of went over the first part of the stuff that I wanted to go through for the day. And then there is a current reading of the Emerald Tablet of Thoth as well. And let me see. Amon, you'll find real love when you get balanced and love yourself. And it may not be an immediate thing. Remember, sometimes rejection is God's protection. But truthfully, when you've healed enough to raise your vibration and clear your energy, you can open the doorway that will allow love to be found. And truthfully, you also have to remember, if you are one of the chosen, your mate is not going to be easy to find. Sometimes it takes, yes, Modern Mystic Messages is my YouTube handle, the channel. Absolutely. And yes, blessings to everyone, peace and blessings to everyone here. Absolutely. I want nothing but happiness and well being for everyone. He said, yeah. Oh, I will. Namaste. Always, always. But yeah, we can talk about love at another time, but it's not easy. I can't really tell you when you're going to find it, but once you heal and know that you can clear your energy from past dramas and traumas, and don't be out there messing with toxic placeholders, keep your energy clear, keep your vibration high, keep your knowing that love can find you, and it will. I do readings, Jeremy. Again, I have been doing readings for the collective. If you go to my channel, there is a playlist called Tarot Readings, which will have the general readings there. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can message me at modernmysticmessages@gmail.com. My payment gateway at this time is through Buy Me a Coffee, and we can make arrangements for a personal reading if you wish to have one. I got something on my mouth, but yeah. But absolutely, definitely stay blessed, everyone. Thank you again for joining me. Peace and blessings to everyone. I love you so very much. And until next time, I will try to pop on tomorrow evening for a little while as well. But like I said, I'm going to be doing some pre-recorded messages for the Soul Tribe. So keep your notifications on and look for those. I love you too, my dear. Absolutely. And you and I, like I said, I think, did you join the group in WhatsApp? It didn't see a name on the number, but I did see a new member to the group. Was that you, Unique? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, then you and I can certainly reach out there a little bit later. But absolutely, absolutely. Again, love you, everybody. Peace and blessings to you. And until next time, namaste.